Howdy. I'm heading out right now. Got some stuff to drop off, take some film to Nice Film Lab, return a couple of things to Amazon, and gonna get a haircut. We're gonna talk about photo stuff. Taking out the trash first. So much for cold front Texas. That didn't happen. It's a test to see if the sun is going to be having such a huge glare on this again. So the conversation about street photography, is it played out? Or people over it? Is it, has it lost its touch? Has it lost the sauce, lost the juice? I believe it hasn't. Honestly, for those people that have always taken street photography photos, they will continue to take street photography photos. The artists and the people that have come into their form, I think of like the Stock Easies, of course, the Andre Wagners, the greatest photographer alive, the Joe Greers, people that we have seen who have built their platform and also their career portfolio with big chunks of street photography. They're still thriving, they're still going. And there are still people that are also doing the same thing around wherever you're at. Whether it's my buddy John Hendricks, whether it is Dorian Coleman, whether it's people like Eddie G in the Aurora, Colorado, Denver, Colorado area. People that are taking photos not only just so they can take photos of their cities, but so they can take photos to tell a story of their community. It is a big, big deal, and that's why street photography will never play out. On YouTube, you may see less content, but that's because YouTube has now switched to, instead of rewarding the type of content that is put out and SEO terms and things like this, it's rewarding frequency for how much and how big of a reach content now has. And you're seeing the effects of this whenever it comes to why don't I see more videos about the perfect street photography camera or street photography POV or street photography this or that. There's also the fact that there's just fatigue from a lot of people on certain types of content. It always does this in rounds, whether it is content like, Peter McKinnon used to make with the 5-Minute Tuesdays and things like that, whether it's content of like actual stripped down gear review type of videos, what's in my bag content. That used to be so high where what's in my bag content video, I felt like people could get 100,000 views on it. Now it's way lower because the taste changes. The zeitgeist is always zeitgeisting and doing whatever the hell a zeitgeist is. It doesn't mean that something has lost its touch. And honestly, street photography is one of the things that I recommend to everyone to partake in. Whether or not it's a fad or whether or not it's huge on Instagram and it's huge for the algorithm, street photography is something that actually shapes who you are as a photographer, shapes your eye, shapes your morals in photography, and more than anything, it trains you and prepares you for situations where you may need to be fast twitch and just react off of feeling. For me specifically, whenever I was shooting a lot of sports photography and on assignments, whether it was for the MLS, the MLB, or just, like for the USFL or whatever it is, XFL, whatever that grouping is that I just shot in San Antonio, street photography was a big help to me because I was always thinking, okay, next shot, having to react, having your eyes on everything, and having to really go off a feel on lining up a shot, composing, and being able to get to the right spot to take it. Same thing for editorials, for San Antonio Express News, and publications like that. Street photography really did shape who I am as an artist, and I believe it will do the same for you no matter what genre you're in. You don't have to take photos of women, of children, of people that are minding their business, even something as branching out into the topography side of street photography. That's a big deal to be able to help train your mind for pattern, for color recognition, for event recognition, and it's a great way to build your portfolio, especially whenever you're in an area that has events and such. Don't remember what I ordered, but oh, actually I do. Yeah, I'm switching to Canon. I had to get that. Now I'm back here. Street photography is a cost-effective way to go out and be creative and to find something to create without needing to arrange models, to arrange product, to arrange just all these different things that not only take extra time, but a lot of times take money. The world is just honestly your inspiration, as well as technically the world is your model, whether it is a rundown shop, whether it is, people in a shopping center, whether it is a food vendor, whatever it is, whatever you feel comfortable with, street photography is is your way to be able to start to move those creative juices around, get your body going, and to continue to be able to develop that side of your brain that says, hey, these interact with these to make this pleasing, and I like this, and it just helps you grow. The hardest stretches I've ever had in photography have come from the times where I don't get out and at least exercise that photography muscle in street photography for a couple of weeks. Whether it's my landscape photography that I'm getting into, whether it's product photography, whether it's editorial sports photography, I could always tell a difference between the way I was seeing things, the way I was reacting to things, and the way I was anticipating things, as well as with anticipating the right focal lengths to be set at whenever it comes to zoom lenses, just strictly based on how much I had shot street leading up to that. If it had been a situation where I'm on an assignment and I hadn't really done anything with street in, like, let's say a month or so, I would feel the rust. It's weird to talk about, and I think that everyone knows what I'm talking about. When you start shooting street, it's always like the first, hour or 30 minutes, the first quarter, the first half of however much time you're out there, it's always like a warm up. But once you get in the flow, you get in the flow. And the more you go and do it, the easier it gets. And when you're shooting street, I feel like quite a bit, and then you go into these assignments, you go into these jobs, you go into these, things you're doing, TFPs and stuff like that. It's like your flow is already there because you've already had your mini camp, your training camp, your training. You've already stretched that muscle recently, and so you're kind of in that mindset to continue to create. Whether or not you agree with it, because honestly, it doesn't matter if you agree with it. People are going to continue to take street photography pictures. I feel a certain type of way about people that are missionaries and go and take photos of, impoverished areas of the world, and somehow it's always an impoverished brown area of the world, but we can get into that later. Or when people always want to go travel the world, but always want to slum it and take photos of slums. My worry and my critique is never taken seriously, but we can continue to hate on street photography as being evasive and, of course, being a, invasion of someone's privacy. But the art of street photography in and of itself isn't meant to be a shot culture kind of thing. It's not meant to be something that is here to disturb everyone. It's not meant to be, oh, look at all these people that are experiencing homelessness. Look at all this stuff. It's not meant to be that. People will make it that because, again, there's a lot of people. I always think back to the fact that, the whole hippie generation, the flower power, love generation, stuff like that. Most of those people you saw drugged out in the middle of a field at Woodstock and shit, they were trust fund kids that were, taking time off because they could. And now they are CEOs, COOs, and politicians that developed their life off a trust fund and got to live their life. And so there will always be people like that who have more than enough, and so they see things as the taboo, as them living and being edgy. But then you have people that are doing street photography because they care about their city. My buddy Dorian Coleman absolutely loves the city of Cleveland, Ohio. And the work that he's created to be able to honor the city is some of my favorite work because you can tell there's a love and an actual passion there. It doesn't matter if it's black, white, brown, Asian, native, anything like that. The city of Cleveland is what, he holds near and dear to him and what he holds in his heart. It has nothing to do with, he's got an agenda. I'm going to take photos of this group that's experiencing something, or I want to go to these events, or I want to be at this type of thing with this type of athlete, or whatever it is. It's about the city of Cleveland. I think of Andre Wagner, who, his claim really or I don't want to say claim to fame, but what really brought him out into the public eye was his documentation of specifically the Brooklyn area that he was in, just everyday stuff, and also the subway system, something that everyone neglects and walks through all the time. Before Brooklyn got gentrified too by people, again, trust fund kids. And those are two people that I think about whenever I think about street photography that I think are the best in the game right now, but that's what they cut their teeth on. I got to know Gajan Balan because of his street photography. And it's, again, because it's open to everybody, and anybody can be somebody with it. It's why people take offense to it because, it should have regulations. And we know that regulation is just another word for, I don't like that I'm not more important in this space than someone else. And so I want to make sure that there's hindrances so that I could potentially rig my way to have an advantage, etc., etc. But regardless of what the thought is, the thing is that when it comes to that art and when it comes to that side of it, the biggest thing is that it's open and available for everyone. And that's what makes it beautiful. That's what's going to keep it strong. And that's what's going to make sure that time and time again, people are going to find it and people are going to be gravitated to it. So street photography isn't losing its sauce. It's not losing its power, and it's definitely not losing its, you know, punch. Again, deprioritizing an algorithm, that's one thing. But how often does that happen? All the time. And more importantly, I hope it never falls off, because it's one of the most important things for documenting cultures and people that we still have today, regardless of what a Tony Northrup will say, living in his, you know, upstate Connecticut home where he doesn't have to worry about anything and, you know, trust fund baby shit. Like, that's one whole other thing and a whole other conversation. But shout out to the people that are still taking street serious, and shout out to the people that dip in back and forth, in and out. Shout out to the people that tried it once and didn't like it because they couldn't do it well. You're still keeping it alive. And yeah, with all that being said, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Remember to take it light, but take it, and have a good one.